Let the ritual begin.
If you followed Pokemon discourse since the release of Pokemon X and Y about 10 years ago, you may have noticed an outsized popularity or even cult following for a relatively niche character. A spooky ghost girl who would find herself among the fans' favorites in just about every dimension, Hex Maniac, or Helena as she's sometimes known as now. I'm Eagle, welcome to Eagle Vidya. A little bit more about the channel later in the video. I hope to earn your following today.
I'll follow you anywhere.
I want to discuss and go over a character who, to be perfectly honest with you, is probably my favorite character in the Pokemon universe for what it's worth, and that is Hex Maniac, or Helena as she's sometimes called now. For the sake of this video, I'm just going to define her as a single character. If you've played the games, you know that she's, or this character, if you will, is considered a trainer class, but like I said, for the sake of this video, I'm going to just consider her a single character, or perhaps Helena, like I said. We'll get into that later. Now, quick aside, I'm old. I was around for the original Pokemania in 1998. I started with Red and Blue. I've played every main series game going all the way to 7th generation, which I have, but I've not yet played, and I've kept pretty close tabs on the series. I think the quality has begun to deteriorate a little bit, to say the least. I won't get too much into that in this video, but sometimes it almost feels like our very own Hex Maniac laid a curse on this series, and despite the financial success, maybe the quality of the mainline games has significantly deteriorated. I'll just leave it at that. But to provide a little bit of a background, Hex Maniac, like I said, is actually a trainer class that actually goes back to the 3rd generation of Pokemon games, with the sprites looking like this. Now, I don't think these are necessarily bad looking. They're just not as striking as Hex Maniac as we know her. As the years go by, I don't vividly remember trainer classes necessarily, and this wasn't an exception. But with the release of X and Y, we were blessed with this Hex, and she is
Whinerific.
I don't have the best understanding of art and design. I just kind of know when I really like something, and I definitely like this. Simply put, she's cute, and depending where you get your fan art, definitely so much more.
I'm blushing.
But if I were to take a guess as to the appeal of her appearance, her color palette is simple. It's just black and purple. It's not loud or wacky so as to appeal to zoomers, and the colors work really well for her area of expertise, as you'd expect, and they provide a really nice contrast with her pale white skin. The eyes are a swirl, a pretty obvious conveyor of some type of unhinged madness or obsession. The wide mouth adds to that too a little bit, I think. Long, unkept hair, yet the hair contains an ehoge, or this little flip you see. Typically an anime visual cue of some sense of innocence or foolishness. Her outfit is a long dress, commonly seen in horror media. The pattern, it looks like a spider web, is probably my overall only design dislike, but honestly I don't mind it. Finally, the black shoes and nail polish definitely remind me of these type of girls back in the day, who myself and a lot of other guys found attractive. I don't know, at least I like them a lot more than these. But as far as in-game interaction with Hex, there really isn't much to go off of aside from battle dialogue. But it's one of those things, again, where sometimes less is more, and this encounter in Pokemon X and Y is her most iconic appearance by far. She appears behind you, floats around you, cryptically states that you are not the one, and then vanishes. In doing so, she provided one of the most memorable moments in Pokemon X and Y, and honestly spawned a pretty large number of fan theories about her background, where she's coming from, what she's looking for. A Hex Maniac and Alpha Sapphire will also repeat this quote. She's located within Mount Pier. In Dendemil City of X and Y, a seemingly out-of-place Hex Maniac will sell you Moo Moo Milk, from which you can probably ascertain what kind of exquisite fan art this inspires. I just hope she was able to make it back into her room after getting locked out of it in Pokken Tournament. Like I said though, aside from those, a card or two, and this webcomic actually on the Japanese Pokemon website, whereby a Hex Maniac will actually give you a tour of some of the believed to be haunted locations throughout the series history up until that point in the series X and Y. there actually hasn't been much to go off of as far as a personality or a backstory of Hex Maniac, at least up until Pokemon Masters, which I'll get into later in the video. A lot of that is more or less ascribed based on her traits. As a matter of fact, one really good example of this is a Hex Maniac webcomic, actually, entitled My Girlfriend is a Hex Maniac. It's created by MGXO. It's actually dubbed here on YouTube by Trina Deuhart. And it's really good. I recommend you go check both of them out. It's really well done. So what do I like in this character, and what do I see in this smelly, spooky ghost girl? I'll be honest with you, I feel like I relate to the character a little bit, and not necessarily in a gender identity type of way.
How I like to describe the ghost pronouns is it's like a further, deeper description of my gender personally.
But maybe as someone who more often than not is on the introverted side of things. She is undoubtedly a night owl, and after working a normie job with normie hours for nearly a decade now, I still can't shake my insomnia. She's crazy, but in all the right ways, and at the end of the day is not dangerous. If a bit of a troll or a prankster, her interests are out of the ordinary, and her passion for them probably borders on obsession. And to be honest with you, I'm really not far behind in that regard, between the firearms, being a Philadelphia Eagles fan, being a pretty big fan of Princess Peach, and then more or less a collector of CRT TVs. Like I said, I got some interests and some passion for them that I feel a bit misunderstood for. I feel like she's misunderstood and maybe even an outcast to a certain degree. She probably, however, is able to form a small number of very close friendships. I think she seeks a level of understanding about the world that is probably outside of the mainstream socially accepted view, which as a like-minded person is why I've made myself available on a number of video hosting platforms, not just YouTube. Really, I think a lot of people just relate to what they see in the character, which before this month really hadn't been much, but with Hex Maniac Helena's recent debut in Pokemon Masters, she's really had her chance to shine in a lot of ways that many of us had already seen. Now there's a light story arc here, I won't delve too deep into it. I guess you could say it contains some minor spoilers, if you want to call them that. But within this story arc, you will find Hex Maniac Helena's difficulty connecting with normies or even society writ large, wild gigantic mane, hints of insomnia, distrust of mainstream authority or narratives and a search for the truth, concern for friends, occult obsession, taste for trolling, dislike of crowds, and maybe preference for more closer, tight-knit friendships and interactions. I think her English voice even sounded like what I would have guessed it to have sounded like.
Do I fill you with terror?
Some combination of Styx the Badger from Sonic Boom and Mako from Girls und Panzer, a couple of other endearingly unhinged and reclusive anime grills. Now maybe this is what the official writers had in mind, maybe they just took a fan thing and ran with it, which wouldn't be the first time they've done that, but overall I really like what they did with Hex Maniac Helena in Pokemon Masters. And that's saying something because, like I said, I think the quality of the main series games has significantly deteriorated in the last few years, and I really just don't like playing phone games. So that's what I find most appealing about Hex Maniac Helena, who probably still remains relatively niche within official material, but as far as her following, honestly finds herself right there on the Pokemon waifu pantheon. Maybe we see it similarly, maybe we see it a little bit different. Either way, I'd love to know what you think about Hex Maniac Helena within the comments below of this video. I'd love to know, and I'm very grateful for your presence on my new channel. I don't intend to be a Pokemon channel, but rather a general gaming industry channel with a focus on Nintendo, but if you did enjoy my perspective today and that at all interests you, I would be honored if you would follow me on any and all video hosting platforms for which I'm a part of, and this right now includes YouTube, BitChute, Odyssey, and Rumble. Additionally, I will have links below if you wish to financially support my channel at this time as well. In the next video, I'm going to be discussing the next release of a series which, speaking of hexes, might actually truly be cursed. I hope to see you there.